Jitters. I know you all have missed that intro music for a whole entire week. Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year and happy 2018 to everybody. Good to see everybody in the chat. Dang, it's been a long time. I think I missed you guys. So we're back. We're back in action. The holidays are over. 2017 is gone. It's in the can. And good riddance, by the way. And welcome to 2018 with TLD Cast, the Training, Learning, and Development Cast, and chat. You can find out more about everything that we do here at tldc.us. It's tldc.us is the website where you can go find out everything about what we do here at the Training, Learning, and Development Cast, Chat, and Conference. If anybody's new and has not hung out with us before, my name is Brent Schlenker. My cohort in crime, Luis Malbus, is under the weather, as I believe it seems like everybody's gotten sick over the holidays, but I think, oh wait, I actually see him. He must have been able to roll out of bed. Luis, how's it going? Good to see you. And so definitely hang out with us today for an hour. Tell all your friends about it and let us know. Join us at tldc.us. We have a membership there. You can become a member at tldc.us/membership. And with membership, besides getting connected with all sorts of wonderful people in the training and learning and development community, we have a bunch of other benefits for you. One of those includes an extremely fabulous discount for the TLDC 18 event coming up at the end of the month. Yes, if you can possibly believe it, TLDC 18 is now no longer right around the corner. It is the corner, and we are there at the corner. So just a few weeks away before we will all be meeting up in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. And I can tell you that it is still absolutely gorgeous here. It could not be any more beautiful than it is right now. So keeping my fingers crossed that it stays that way for 4 more weeks. And we will have some fantastic weather for you guys. So yikes, Kara. Yeah, sorry about 3 degrees. We don't get that low around here. So if we're 3 degrees below 70, it's cold. And we're not there, so it's all good. Maybe in the middle of the night it gets a little bit cooler, but yeah, I know it's a beautiful 70 degrees here probably today, and sun is shining, and it's always a good time. So apologize, don't mean to rub that in for everybody, but it's just the way we roll around here in the desert, in the Valley of the Sun, as they say. But hey, before I forget, we've moved TLD Chat in 2017. We spent a lot of time calling this little get-together TLD Chat, and now it's TLD Cast because it is more like a broadcast, a collaborative broadcast, if you will. TLD Chat is now being done in Slack, so please feel free to join us in our Slack group. That is absolutely free, as is this TLD Cast. I know those of you that are here already know that because you didn't have to pay anything to get in. But if any of your friends ask, hey, wow, why do you know what's up with this daily thing? It probably costs money, right? You can very freely and honestly say no. We do in TLD Chats completely wide open and free. For our membership, we do some special events and offer some special bonus value, but TLD Cast and TLD Chat will always be free for you to engage with and get connected with your peers. So we appreciate all of you that have become members, but just hang out with us and enjoy the community. It doesn't cost you anything except an hour of your morning. So With that, I think what I will do is jump right into our guest today. Yes, you guys may think I was slacking off even though I was sick and we didn't get any guests, but we did happen to get a guest loaded up for today, which we're super excited about. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody, please help me welcome Clint Clarkson to TLD Cast. Hey, Clint, how's it going?
It's going wonderful, despite the weather.
Despite the weather. Oh, you're having bad weather. I forgot to ask you that earlier in the green room. Where are you located?
Well, I returned from Fiji after there on December 26th. It was plus 35 degrees Celsius there, 25 Celsius in Calgary.
Oh my gosh. So you're in Canada. Yikes. So sorry.
Yeah, Canada. Yikes.
Just cold. Uh-oh. We lost you.
There reaches a point when it's no longer it no longer gets colder. It's just cold.
Yeah. It's just the way it rolls. Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. So listen, why don't you just give everybody a little bit of background, introduce yourself to the crowd here and say hi.
Sure. The role that I play right now is I'm the VP of e-learning at Xpan Interactive. We're a boutique e-learning firm, like a lot of e-learning firms are. We develop bespoke e-learning for mostly light rail. We do work for the three big manufacturers, Bombardier, Siemens, and China Rail South. We also do some work in the medical field as well, particularly with Stanford University with their Digital Medic, which endeavors to improve the quality of healthcare in developing countries. And we're also doing some work with the Centers for Disease Control right now. So some pretty exciting types of work to be doing, and always looking for new and creative ways to help them deliver content digitally.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? I want to, it sounds like it's an interesting mix of industries, and we'll get to that in a little bit to see, hear a little bit about some of the work you've done for them so far. But let's start like we always like to here on TLD Cast and ask our guests about how did you stumble this cradle of training in L&D?
Sure. I think I'm like a lot of people where I stumbled into L&D completely by accident with no effort whatsoever. It actually started one day when I got fired from delivering pizza for Domino's. Apparently waking up a baby by accident and then yelling at the people who yelled at you is not good for business. And that, out of desperation for a job, landed me working for a collection agency. No experience in collections, but somehow managed to become the team leader of a retail collections division. And having no idea what I was doing, I decided the best thing to do was sit with everyone and try and learn what they were doing and take a lot of notes. So I spent a lot of time just trying to figure out how collectors work, the techniques they used, and I wrote them all in a manual. And so I did that for about 6 months, finished off this manual, and somehow it landed on our VP of operations desk. And he walked up to me one day and said, "Did you write this?" Didn't sound very friendly about it. I said, "Yes, I did write that." He's like, "Okay, great. You're going to be our new trainer." And that's how I wound up in learning and development. So that was trial by fire, lots and lots of failures as a trainer. I didn't get any education and training until a number of years later as both an instructional designer and a trainer. And that was probably one of the most eye-opening experiences that has caused me to this day. I'm one of the people from our field, like so many are, where I just consume as much as I possibly can because I learned so many things I was doing wrong right from day one. And so that's sort of how it happened. I got in a fight delivering pizza, and that's how I became a trainer.
I love that story. That's a good one. I'm going to have to mark that one for when I pull a collection of them together again. It'll be fun. But you know what would be really interesting to hear about is some of those lessons learned. I think that is, I think there are a lot of folks that are in that position right now, right? And that they find themselves, and they're probably not watching this right now because they don't know they're a trainer. They don't know that they want to be a trainer. They don't even know that an industry like ours exists. But they might find themselves enjoying to learn and to, put information together the way you did kind of with that manual, but they don't know where to go. So what did that path sort of look like when you finally realized, well, yeah, this is something that I'm good at, that I enjoy doing? What was sort of the first thing you did? Did somebody tell you, hey, there's this thing called instructional design you should probably get pretty good at? Or, how'd that work?
The first book it came in the form of a book. The first book that I was giving was Understanding by Design, Wiggins and McTighe. And reading through that, it's really K-12 oriented, but it does have some great instructional design content in it. It's where the backwards design comes from. And it has so much fantastic information about how people learn and the development of content. It's the fundamentals, working from the learning objective to how you will assess, and then designing your content into how you will assess to achieve the learning objective. Now, that book has a pretty big gap in it, as you learn as an instructional designer, that they don't really connect the learning objective to business performance because it is K-12 oriented. And that's something that I had to learn trial by fire throughout the process. But that's the first resource I stumbled across. Now, that's a textbook.
So tell us that the name of that book.
It's called Understanding by Design.
Okay. Maybe somebody can find a link to that and pop it in the chat. It might be a good one to check out for sure.
Yeah.
So then from there, what happened? You got your first book. You learned a little bit there that moved you a little bit further down the path.
Learned a little bit there, and the biggest thing it taught me was I had no clue what I was doing, and so from there, I was actually referred to go take one particular workshop. I went and took a workshop. You don't learn much from workshops, but what I did learn in the workshop was about the CTT Plus certificate from CompTIA. And that certificate itself wasn't so much valuable as a book that I found online. It's actually really difficult to find. I've tried to find it again recently, and it's the CompTIA CTT Plus Prep Guide from Cert Labs. And it's not a very big book. It's a thin little spiral bound book, and it just had some fantastic techniques for things like dealing with difficult learners, sequencing content, how to manage a classroom, the different classroom potential setups for different types of content. And it was really fantastic for just going over some of those basics. And that was something I didn't get from Understanding by Design, because it is a university text. It's a difficult read, where the Cert Labs piece was really straightforward and simple. And that's really probably where I should have started on day one.
Gotcha. So, and the CTT, just so everybody understands, that's the Certified Technical Trainer.
That's right.
Is that right? Okay. So, I remember does CompTIA still have that certification available?
As far as I know, they do.
I think CompTIA still runs that stuff. Yeah. It's, I wonder, does anybody in the chat have a CTT Plus certification? I haven't heard it discussed on TLD Cast, so I'm guessing no. Would be the answer to that. Yeah, Craig, I believe that's it. Thank you, sir. No, it's not the C++, Jolt.
I'm not that smart.
Wow, yeah. We talk a lot here about how instructional designers should learn a little bit of code. But I think forcing them to learn C++ might be a little bit too much over the edge. Oh man! So great. So did you actually get the certification then?
I successfully got the certification. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so when did you then, were you already in this role when you did that work, or were you doing something else?
At that time I was actually working for an airline out of Canada. It's Canada's second largest airline. They fly into the US a lot, but most Americans aren't familiar with it. It's a company called WestJet. In Canada, we have an award called the Most Admired Corporate Culture Award. And they're not allowed to compete for the award anymore because they win it every year. So they created a Hall of Fame, and there's 4 organizations that are inside that organization. So really fantastic place to work. So I was actually there, and I wound up in their L&D department after working as a flight attendant for a bit. Don't do that. It's not fun. And that's where I came across a really, really great instructional designer who was a manager there. And he operated as my mentor for the first few years that I became what I call a real instructional designer.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah. WestJet's looks like Kristen has heard of the amazing corporate culture at WestJet. So their reputation precedes them here.
Yeah, they've got you'll find them on YouTube. If you YouTube WestJet, they've done some really neat things. They go down to the Dominican each year and build houses as a company. They also do some great social media content, April Fool's jokes and those sorts of things that are always a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds cool. I don't know if it's just my bandwidth, but I seem to have lost you on the video. Is everybody else did you turn your video off, or did we just?
No, I actually tried to turn it back on. The two screens that were up were both TLD cast screens, so they were from your end. I'm just not sure if my camera's still running.
No video for Clint. I haven't seen Clint's video at all. Yeah, it could just be a bandwidth thing. We're at yeah, it was definitely on earlier, and then we lost you. Ah, cool. Nope. Yeah. Well, easy come, easy go. Oh, there it is.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, sometimes it's a bandwidth thing. The Crowdcast platform gets a little bit wonky at times, and I blame a lot of it too on my my network here at the house. I'm trying to upgrade it, so it's a mandatory thing for 2018. So, anyways, all right. So let's just jump in. This before we hit the 30-minute mark, where we'll take a quick break. You know, tell me, what do you? Let's go with what is your favorite? I was going to say e-learning, but any solution, any training or L&D solution that you've created so far. Which one do you're really proud of?
That's a funny question, because I was asked that, I'm going to say in September, and I couldn't come up with an answer. There's lots of stuff I've worked on that I was really excited about, but not anything that stood out as, okay, that one's better than the rest. I'm more excited about that. And curiously enough, though, the person that asked it was a client that we were doing work for. And I'm going to say that the project that we built for them is now my absolute favorite solution that we've built. It's for an organization called Women Building Futures. They're out of Edmonton. And their mandate is essentially to help women, particularly women in economic situations that are, so lower economic situations, such as our Native communities, women living in Northern Alberta where there isn't a lot of potential or opportunity, helping them get into roles that aren't traditionally women-oriented. So things like working in the oil fields or working in construction. And our task with them, or the problem that we're trying to overcome, is that a lot of these women are working or doing their learning in remote locations. They don't have other people around them to talk to. Most of their connection is by phone with the organization. And we needed to find ways to help them understand the type of career that they were going to be going into and the types of challenges that they were going to face going into it. So the ultimate solution, I mean, there are a number of different pieces to it, but ultimately it became a solution built all around storytelling and about telling the story of individuals that are going into these careers, the types of experiences they're having, scenarios that they would encounter, the difficult decisions, sometimes where both are a bad option, but you've got to pick between the two of them, as well as things like working in camp. What is that life like? What are some of the challenges you're going to encounter? There's lots of people, but you can feel really lonely in a situation like that. How do you deal with that? There's lots of food. It's really easy to overeat, undereat because of the schedule, because you're working nights and mornings, shift work type of thing, and trying to tell that story in a way that was compelling and kept a person engaged, but also forced them to start making decisions about what they might do when they encounter those scenarios. So prepping them for entering that sort of lifestyle. And so that's easily the most favorite course that I've done to date, in part because it's such an important demand in Alberta right now, where we don't necessarily have enough workers, and we also have situations up north where the economic situation isn't very good. And those two pieces you would think would blend together easily, but it's untraditional for a lot of those people, and trying to give them that tool to connect them to that work is important for our province and important for them.
Yeah, so in telling those stories, Kim asks, if there was a lot of video involved in that.
There actually wasn't. We did want to incorporate some video. We did from an interview simulation that we did, but there just wasn't budget for it. So it became graphic and photographic heavy, and it really became a matter of trying to use the limited animation set that you have inside. We've built it in Storyline to create the movement and visual interest that we lose by not having the video, and then it's all narrated. So it's a narrated story that they make decision points throughout.
Cool. And it did. And you said that it's mostly mobile. So did you have anything you had to consider as far as responsive design and things like that?
A lot of consideration around text size and button size, those sorts of things. When you're working on a smaller mobile device, how it's a little bit more difficult. The biggest thing for us was really bandwidth. So some of these communities don't have really great internet connections. So slide size was a really big consideration. We actually did run into some challenges with that and needed to go back and break down the size of some slides. Ensuring that the photography was at a low enough resolution that it would come through on a weaker network, and things like that were the biggest challenges.
Did you have to worry about devices? Like, did they actually have modern devices and stuff like that, especially in the native community in the northern part?
Yeah, absolutely. iPhones are the most popular thing up there, I think. I mean, there's not a lot else to do. So the iPhone and when you can get on the internet, that's where you spend your time.
Interesting. Yeah. So the devices are, everybody's got enough devices to handle it, but then it is just the bandwidth then that became sort of a constraint you were working on.
So the Women Building Futures is actually, they're toying with the idea, they haven't officially gotten budget for it yet, of actually having a mobile internet truck. So they can actually drive up there and then disperse the internet when they're trying to train people or trying to let them complete the e-learning.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. You might be I don't know how these two organizations could fit together, but if you're not familiar with Leslie, I can't even think of her. Leslie Price. Oh my gosh, chat room, help me out here. She's in the UK and she's with a nonprofit that she does where they drop internet into locations just like what you're saying. She's created this little box that holds all of the e-learning stuff in it. It's got a Wi-Fi hotspot in it and everything. It's actually for extremely rural locations in Africa, but I'm assuming it could work up in northern Canada as well. And I don't know why I can't even think of it. She and I haven't talked about it in so long. And Learn Appeal. That's what it is. Let me learnappeal.org, I believe is it. Oh, no, I don't think, unless she's got a new website, I don't think this is it. All right. .com. Thank you, Kara. Yep, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. I have one of her little devices here. Hold on a sec. So it's basically this little box, and it basically has a hard drive in it and everything, and they drop all of their learning and e-learning content onto this, and they just drop it into schools in Africa. And when the kids come in, their phones can automatically connect to the Wi-Fi. Once they do it for the first time. Obviously, right? And then they just walk in and then they're immediately connected to e-learning content. And so a lot of these folks are getting trained up in areas that they wouldn't normally be able to get trained on because of the work she's doing there. It's in conjunction with some much larger organizations that are doing work in Africa. But anyways, it's pretty cool. what they're doing. I thought the solution was pretty unique.
Very neat. Yeah, I'll take a note of that and share that with them.
Yeah, it might be an interesting collaboration of some sort. So anyways, just wanted to drop that in there. We're at 9:27. I think that's close enough to 9:30 for me. So let's some hold music. Yes, yes, I do need some hold music, Craig, but maybe you could write some for me or somebody. I don't know. Do we have anybody in the chat that has any sort of, musical talents or skills? Nope. Yeah, right. Sorry, if you hung out with us all the time, we sometimes rat hole down talking about music. We do have a bunch of musicians in the crowd. So, but every time I put out a request for a custom TLD cast song, nobody can seem to pull one together for me. So everybody's so busy.
Work? What?
Maybe that's what we should do. Yeah, maybe that's what we should do at TLDC 18, folks, is we're going to have to take one session and just do the TLD cast theme music once and for all, so you don't have to listen to the stuff that you hate so much, even though I kind of like
it. Write a jingle. One of those ones that gets stuck in your head. You can't get it out for days.
Right? That's exactly what we need to come up with. I know you guys all leave humming the little trombone part there on the jazz intro. I know you do. Don't tell me you don't. But anyways, all right, I'll let you cruise into maybe, I don't know if you've been following along in the chat or not, but give me a few minutes, and when we come back from this little break, we'll talk a little bit about your L&D cartooning work, and we can do some of the screen sharing and whatnot. I think that'll be fun for everybody to see.
I'm going to step over to the side and try and hide my screen so people don't see what's coming. The reflections in the back.
Oh yeah, no, that's all right. They won't. You won't see it ahead of time. But anyways, hey everybody, thanks for. What have I missed on the checklist so far? Oh, Q&A. All right. Dang it. I was so close. Hey, everybody, don't forget to put your questions into the Ask a Question section. And then for those of you that feel free to vote up the questions that you like. I've noticed that there's one in there. Why don't you guys go ahead and vote that one up? And we'll talk about that one when we come back. There, I'm all caught up. But it is that 30-minute mark, and I just want to say thanks to everybody for hanging out today. Thanks for being part of the TLDC community. We really do appreciate it. Really do. I'm glad everybody stuck around. I thought maybe since we left for a week, people might just disappear, and you might get out of the habit of hanging out with us every morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and 4 p.m. UK time. So it's fun that everybody was able to jump back in and hang out with us, and to see a couple new faces too. I appreciate that. Why don't all of you, while I go through a couple other things in my 30-minute break checklist, introduce yourselves to some of the new folks. If you see somebody that pops up into the chat that you've never seen before, say hi, please, and introduce yourselves. Let everybody know what you do, where you're from, that kind of stuff, and let them know. So it's great to see so many of you folks here hanging out with us today. It's definitely a good crowd. Really appreciate it. We also want to remind you to hit us up at tldc.us. Don't forget about membership at tldc.us/membership and become a member today. Make a commitment to yourself this year to put in a little extra time every week and get connected with your community and build your career. Start amping up the work that you do and getting connected with folks that do the same or similar work. And if you've been doing this work for a really, really, really long time, this is a great place to give back and to mentor and to coach and to share your skills with those new folks that are just getting into the field and wanting to learn a little bit more and have a lot of questions. So please feel free. This is a group for everybody to hang out in. It doesn't matter what part of your career you're in. It doesn't matter what part of the industry you're in. Maybe you're a developer. Maybe you're a designer. Maybe you're a CLO. maybe maybe you're just kind of on the fringes of all of this stuff and you're just deciding to get into it, or maybe you're a college student, you're in a grad program at ASU or Ohio or in Colorado. I think Denver's colleges have a big program. Florida State's got a big L&D ISD program. George Washington, I think, does too. So, or maybe you're coming out of our favorite gamification person's program on the East Coast. Carl Kopp does a great job at Bloomsburg University. So you can check that out as well, and figure out how you can hang out with a crew of folks. All of this free consulting. Everybody that's here has had at least some experience working in the field, if not a lot of experience. And so what better way to learn about what your future career is going to be like than to hang out with a bunch of people doing the work. So if you know anybody that's in school or have any connections with any of the universities, please reach out to them and let them know that we're here. We'd love to engage with them and help them in any way that we can to get jobs, to move their careers forward, to start their careers, all of that. So let them know. It'll be tons of fun. Also, don't forget, at the end of the month, it's coming up really fast. January 29th and 30th, we have TLDC 18, the event of the year, kicking off the year right. Come hang out with us in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, where we will be talking about so many different things. I think one of the major themes that we're going to be looking at, though, has a lot to do with storytelling. Storytelling as it comes out of the marketing world. We have a fantastic guest, a friend of mine from a previous job. She used to work for Apple in their marketing department, and she's put together a fantastic keynote on storytelling. It's kind of kind of her claim to fame. She's looked into that a lot and done a lot of work in that space. And she has some really fun stories to share about her time working with Steve Jobs. So I was really, really excited that she agreed to come speak to you guys at the event. So really, really looking forward to having her there. We've got some other folks coming in that we're really excited to hear about. We're going to talk a little bit about the neuroscience of learning, even if that word or hearing about it from a learning perspective is an issue for you. Never fear, we're not going to go too deep into it. We're just going to brush across the surfaces. I think we all understand that there's still a ton we need to know about the brain and all that kind of stuff, but we have learned a few things over the years, and it'd be fun to share just the basics and to get everybody all connected, and at least to get a decent start on where the work that we do is connected, and maybe we could learn a thing or two from the little bit of research that we do know about the brain. So we've got some fantastic speakers that have been working in that industry as well, talking about that. And also we're going to be learning about bots and just all sorts of fun stuff. So really, really excited about the crew that's going to be there speaking to you guys and hanging out. But more than anything, it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for everybody to get together and to learn from each other. So come with your learning hat on, but also with your teaching hat. And be open and be prepared to maybe step up and share some of your own experiences, even if you're not listed as an official speaker. It's definitely going to be a collaborative experience. So we're really looking forward to that. Also, join us in the Slack group. Don't forget to join there. Even if you're a regular member here, you're going to really love hanging out in Slack. Even if you've never hung out in Slack before, it's a great tool. If nothing else, it's a great opportunity to learn what tools like that are all about and what all the hubbub is. It's become a very, very popular tool over the years. And yes, there are many of them. Microsoft has a tool that's similar, and there are a bunch of other tools out there that do the same and similar type of collaborative connecting communications type work. But we prefer Slack here at TLDC, so that's what we're going with. So jump in and join us for a little bit of that Slack conversation going on. It's a great place to just kind of pop in from time to time, say hi, get caught up on the conversations, especially if you have to miss the hour in the morning. Like what we're doing right now. So don't forget to do that. And before we get back to Clint and his cartoon work, be sure to hit that share button and tell everybody, hey, we got about 20 minutes left of a great conversation in TLD Cast. So we would love to have your friends join us for the next few minutes and help them get connected to the community. So again, thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and we will get right back to it. Clint, sorry that took a little longer than normal. I'm working on my speed on this kind of stuff. And Craig tries to keep me in line, and he does a great job. He wrote a little script for me, but sometimes I ad lib and I go long. So that's just the way it happens.
Live radio, right?
We're back. So have you figured out? Yeah, right. So let's do the do a screen share and show us one of your cartoons. And well, maybe before you do that, why don't you tell people about your cartoon?
Sure. I'd like to say that these cartoons came out of some I can't talk this morning, apparently, from some really great place in my heart. But actually, they were driven out of the desire to come up with some kind of social media engagement. And I actually came up with 7 different things, one per day, that I did for about 3 months. And the only one that really stuck was the comic series. And what I discovered was writing a blog is not a very effective way to engage online if you don't already have a really large audience to draw from. So if you're an organization that has 30,000 people following you or 300,000 people following you, your blog can be successful, but it's a lot more difficult as an individual with 2,000 followers or something like that. So I tried a bunch of different things, and it was the comics that really stuck. But I did discover after the very first comic, I posted it in a number of groups on LinkedIn as well as on my own channel. And the thing that I found really interesting was I wrote it really from an L&D perspective, and that's how I was thinking of it. And when people came back with their comments, a lot of those comments came from different perspectives. So I'm going to do a screen share so that you guys know what I'm talking about here. Let's see if the whole screen will. Can you guys see that? Because there it goes. So this is the very first L&D scene called My Manager Sent Me, and it's about the situation as a trainer where you go into the classroom and people will outright say that they don't want to be here. And I'm writing this from the perspective of L&D, of how difficult a situation that is and how difficult that is to train. And the types of comments that came back talked about the trainee and their responsibility coming into a classroom. They talked about the trainer and their responsibility to make the content relevant and to engage learners. And they also talked about the leadership's responsibility for helping people understand why they're in training and not just sending them or telling them that they have to go. So that really early on opened me up to the concept that these really come from multiple perspectives and hold multiple ideas within them, and I move forward writing them in that perspective. I did almost cancel them, though. I was going to stop writing them because after about 5 weeks, these do take quite a bit of time to come up with the ideas and make them short and pithy. So I just about canceled them, and the only reason that they kept going was on comic number 5 when I decided that enough is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I got a couple of private LinkedIn messages from people in the community that said, these are really great. Please keep doing them. And that was what kept them going. And now they've become quite a bit more successful. They get about 15,000 views each week and get shared all over the world, and they're pretty exciting to build on. So that's how they started. It was out of nothing good in my heart other than wanting to be more prevalent on social media, build my personal brand. But they have become something more than that, of understanding the challenges of L&D, how the business sees L&D, and then bridging the gap between those two things.
Yeah, it's funny. For the longest time, I remember thinking we needed to have a cartoon of some sort, and I remember asking a bunch of illustrators that I know in our community, hey, would you be interested in doing a cartoon? Oh, yeah, it takes a lot of time, and we had a whole bunch of people with good intentions, but of course everybody had day jobs, and, nobody ever really took it to that point. I remember seeing your cartoons when somebody posted it for the first time, and I was like, all right, cool. At least somebody finally did it, and put it out there. So have you gotten any, interesting feedback on from any of your cartoons in particular?
There's been lots of feedback on many of them. I'll say that the most popular, I'll pull it up here, is it was scene 21, which is what really happens in training. And This one generated a lot of conversation about the perspective of the L&D department and why those perspectives exist. You know, why does the CEO think that it's all fluff? Why does the CFO think that we're just burning money? And so really each of these individual captions create an opportunity or create a conversation that could stand on its own. So this one's been the most popular to date, and it's created a lot of interest. What I'm challenged with them at this point is how do we now take these conversations to somewhere else? I think of this. I think of this whenever you're in a meeting as well, and there's a discussion or people are complaining about something. Is now how do we change that? And taking that to the next step is the challenge that I face with these now.
Yeah, I mean this could very easily be a breakdown of topics for an entire event. I mean, honestly, I mean, you could have a session talking about what the CEO thinks. You could have another session on what the CFO thinks and how to talk to that CFO, right? I mean, each of these is a fantastic topic in and of itself, in its own right. You know, I mean, it is. You know, I'm trying to. We only have 15 minutes, so it's not like we could go through and answer each of these questions for each of these topics. But I know everybody in the chat's looking at each one of these, thinking to themselves, wow, yeah, we should talk about each of those. And I've got something to say about each one.
Yeah, I want to jump in and just answer Luis's question here about the illustration. So I started out with the intent of I'm going to illustrate one of these every single week. I very quickly learned that was a bad idea because I was never going to be able to keep up with it. Just coming up with a concept, an idea to write every single week was a challenge. So I actually outsourced the illustration now. So that allows me to just think of what I want to write or what the topics are. And I actually have someone in the Ukraine does the artwork for me now.
Nice. And what's the story behind the comics? Is there one different than the way you've just mentioned it, or?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Oh, well, you mentioned there was earlier there, you mentioned there was an interesting origin story of how you got started doing the comics.
That really came from the desire to build a brand online that I had talked about already. Yeah.
Got okay, that was it. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so because everybody voted up that question, so that had 10 votes on it. I think that's the most votes we've ever gotten on the question. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for jumping in and doing that. Fantastic. So what are the pros, cons, lessons learned of working in an L&D department of an org versus an agency?
I'm surprised that didn't get more upvotes. I think that's a fantastic question. It's something that I actually struggle with to this day because there's benefits to each of them, and sometimes I still desire the benefits of working inside an organization. The biggest challenge that I encounter is a bit paternal. You work with the subject matter experts, you work with the stakeholders within the business when you're at an agency, and then you give your baby away. And in a lot of cases, you don't get to go back and check on it and see how it's doing, what its challenges are, how could it be improved. A lot of times you're working on an RFP, you've got a statement of work for a specific amount of time, and there isn't that opportunity to go back into the organization to assess how well has it been supported. And that's the piece I struggle with most, because we work really hard to come up with these great ideas, and we think they're great, but we don't necessarily get a lot of feedback on whether or not they were actually great from an influencing the business perspective. And so working within an organization, I found that you did get the opportunity to do that. In a lot of cases, you were responsible for that. So you got to have those follow-up conversations, and you could be the person in the meeting pushing someone to make sure that they follow up on whatever the post-training activities were, the post-event requirements were. And so that's the piece I missed the most, is actually being able to get to see the baby grow up.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I've experienced both, and you're right. It is both a blessing and a curse. I think, pros and cons on both sides of it, right? There are moments where I think there are some projects where I think you're very happy to just kind of hand the baby over to them and say, and enjoy the baby.
Yeah. And there is the benefit of getting the opportunity to work with a lot of different type of organizations and work at a lot of different types of work. So I mentioned earlier the work with Women Building Futures, also doing work with Centers for Disease Control, doing work with Monterey Bay Aquarium on sustainable fisheries. I know that there was obviously a major train derailment in the US just recently with Amtrak. The system that they talked about on the news, the access system that wasn't active in that train when it derailed, we actually I recently designed the e-learning course on that system. There's lots of different reasons as to why a conductor can actually turn that system off. But a lot of that e-learning was focused on why not to. Unfortunately, that particular training course wasn't designed for the employees that were conducting that particular train. So you look at something like that and you think, okay. If that person had taken that course, would that have prevented a derailment like that? Is the e-learning that influential, or is the training that influential? So when you're working outside of an organization, you get opportunities to work on that breadth. Now, doing so means every single project you're learning again, so you don't become really immersed inside the business, which also has value to it when you're working inside an organization. So there's the interest component versus the impact component, and so there's a balance there as well.
Yeah, it's fun. I was going to say, when thinking back now to the beginning of the show, you mentioned all these different great places you work where you have, I think, that's a lot of great impact. The company you're working in right now has a lot of great contracts with some great companies doing some interesting work. Are there any other sort of, I don't know, some good case studies, maybe some interesting solutions you can share with us, or that you're allowed to share with us, and maybe some interesting problems that you've solved?
A few different ones really jump to mind. I'm thinking of a transmission line organization in Alberta. The name is AltaLink. We've built a number of courses for them. Two that really stand out for me are the helicopter safety and their environmental awareness courses. So with the helicopter safety, obviously there's a safety component there that's pretty crucial. It's a blended approach. There's a lot of different things that go into helicopter safety. We specifically built their e-learning for them. And the individuals that are taking that course don't want to sit in front of a computer. They generally never sit in front of a computer unless they're just at home doing their own thing. So trying to find ways that made that course interactive and engaging was a particular challenge. And finding ways to have a person more prepared when they get out to the field, so they know what to expect, what the steps are, so they're not just coming in completely green, and getting them more prepared. The other course, the environmental awareness, the challenge with that one is it's part of their corporate orientation. And so they've got a bunch of courses, plus the paperwork, plus you're in a new job, that overwhelming, I'm new to a job type of situation that a lot of organizations have, and it's pretty difficult to overcome. So we've turned that into a gamified solution, and actually had endangered environmental species play the avatars throughout. So there's a bunch of different levels and different characters that narrate or walk the user through each of those individual parts of the course. And really the goal with that was, they felt their big challenge was going to be making it memorable at all. They had people that would do their old course and wouldn't even remember that they had done a course on environmental awareness, because there's just so much else that had happened. And so we were pretty successful at creating a course that people were talking about afterwards and were really interested in.
Have you ever run into a situation where you had learners that just didn't, for one reason or another, depending on the environment, I don't know, all the different types of scenarios can be interesting, but that were just a really tough crowd to get them to want to take your stuff. It wasn't mandatory, so they weren't forced to take it, but obviously you needed to, you didn't want it just to be zero. You didn't want to do all this work and not have anybody want to look at it or whatever. I mean, you know what I'm getting at? I mean, are there ever been an audience that's just been really tough to figure out, and maybe that was the solution that needed solving. I don't know. They're just a tough group to even want to feel like they need training, but yet somebody somewhere says, yes, we have to train them on X, Y, or Z, or they need to be retrained or whatever. Have you ever run into anything like that?
I think we've all run into that probably on lots of different occasions. I'll go back to my partner life when working with a trucking company. and it wasn't just a case of the individual not wanting to be trained. It was a topic that nobody wanted to change or nobody wanted to work on. And that was, we called it the driver pay guidelines. And so driver pay, for those of you unfamiliar with the trucking industry, isn't a straightforward thing. The simple concept is it's how many miles did you drive, you get paid by the mile. But depending what those miles are, how many drops need to be made, how many pickups are made, the types of truck that you're pulling, whether you're a team or whether you're single, if you're driving at night, if not, there's a lot of variables that come into that. And it's not just something that can be automated easily. Individuals have to make decisions about pay in that process. So the easiest solution for a fleet manager is every time the driver asks for some money, just give it to them. Unfortunately, that creates issues with the overall pay. So we definitely ran into a situation when we wanted to revamp those standards and enforce the standards for driver pay inside the organization I was working for. I'd love to say that we came up with a really fantastic solution to get everybody engaged in that process, but it wasn't really about the solution. It was about the number of people that we had engaged and the number of touch points that we had. I think a lot of times organizations say, okay, we've got this problem, we're just going to build the e-learning course, or we're just going to build the training. And we talk about this online in the L&D field or at conferences all the time, that training needs to be looked at as the process, not the event. And that was a really good case study in not letting it be just the event. We built a manual on the standards and we built an e-learning course on the standards, but more importantly, there were meetings that came before an individual went into that e-learning. We had what we called calibration meetings, where individuals would all come in and look at a series of different scenarios and decide what the right way to pay that was, and then ongoing with scenarios and communications about what was happening, where it was being done correctly, where it wasn't. And sometimes there's nuances where you make a decision to go away from the standards because it's the right thing to do. So it was the e-learning course at the center of it and the manual at the center of it, but all of those pieces pre and post that really made that successful. It was a really great case study in using pre and post event components to make a learning program successful.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great example. It's tough. I know I'll be running into that soon with a particular project. It's very, very, very difficult to get people connected. At times when you need to send some training out to a particular audience, but the audience is not the type of audience that wants to be trained on it or on anything at all. So, definitely. Good to hear. I think our last question that's queued up before we have to call it, we're getting close to the top of the hour here. Joe Gonchi just wants to know, are you familiar with the newid.com?
I'm not, and I did pull up the website that was posted there, and I'm going to have to go take a look at this because I haven't seen these at all before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it a competition? Is that what I read? I just made the question go away, so now I can't remember it, but interesting. All right. So leaders are busy. This is a good one. I think I remember seeing this one actually. Did somebody request this one?
Your question prompted me to take a look at this one. This one actually is unreleased. So you guys are getting a sneak peek at a piece that hasn't come out yet. We're only at...
You've done other
I've done lots of
leaders, haven't you? Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a common theme in our industry is having to deal with the leadership.
It is, and
right?
it's a funny one, right? I mean, we'd expect that leaders want to develop themselves and want to get better, and would take the opportunity to be paid to go and do that. So you can look at that as we've got some messed up leaders, or we can look at that as there's really something wrong in L&D, where we get into a situation where people aren't excited about getting paid to go and learn. I mean, in most cases, you have to pay to go and do something, to go and get the training. But instead, we're giving you time off work and we're paying you to go and learn, and people don't want to do it. So we're missing the mark somehow, and we really need to figure out what the solution to that is.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think that's a great final comment for us to end on for sure. So many different things that we could talk about. You've got such a great background. Can we have you back on sometime and go a little bit deeper into some of this great work? Awesome. We would love to have it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. This has been fantastic. Great way to start 2018.
It really is. Thanks so much for having me. I think this is a lot of fun. I like the format, and you guys you'll see me back in the chats over the next while.
Cool. Excellent. And be sure to jump into Slack as well anytime you want. And if you want any feedback on your cartoons before you cut them loose into the wild, you can run them by the community.
That sounds great, actually. Anytime. Thanks very much. I am actually working on a book for ATD. Yeah. We've got about 20 comics, brand new comics that will only appear in the book. Plus, we'll throw in a few of the originals. So we'll definitely be needing some feedback. The biggest thing we're going to be looking for is authors, though. It'll be a collab book. So we're going to have 25 comics. We'll be looking for 25 individuals from the L&D community to write their perspective on the comics, and we'll be looking for 25 people from industry to write their perspective on the comic to try and find those contrasting views and gaps, or where we're really well aligned, because those are areas we need to take advantage of as well. So I'll be seeking those individuals, and if this community can help with that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. That was going to be my next question. So where else can people find you?
The easiest place is on LinkedIn. I'll accept anyone's connection. Anyone in L&D, I love to have people in our network. They're all posted there. I do try and post them on Twitter as well. I'm not as reliable on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook, and I've got them all there in a group on Facebook. So reach out to me anywhere in social media, or I'm at clint@xpan.ca. And you can reach out to me there as well. And I'm
awesome. Again. Yeah, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close out your video, but we're still going to be live here for a little bit while I wrap things up for a couple minutes. But again, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being with us today as our guest, our first guest of 2018.
Awesome. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Wow, that was a fast hour. And what a great way to get back into the year. Cartoons, L&D cartoons, some great case study action. Great to see some new faces in the chat, too. Thanks for joining us, Kristen. It's good to see you. Jenny, thanks for joining us as well. What a great group this morning. Really, really appreciate you guys hanging out. Again, let us know. This community is here for you. So if there is anything that you would like to hear us talk about, if you know of any voices in the community that you would like to hear from, if you would like to be one of those voices and just be a guest on the show, just reach out. Let me know. Let myself or Luis know, or any of our fabulous volunteers that are a part of the TLDC team. Mike, Mike Simmons, absolutely. Craig Seibert, thank you so much for taking notes and keeping me on track. Kara North does a fantastic job of keeping us sane and doing the media stuff for us. So we appreciate her so much in being a part of this community. And Bethany as well. I don't know if I saw her, if she was with us today or not. But we appreciate all of her work and help as well, writing for the blog and other things in that space. So feel free to reach out to any of us. Stay in touch. Let us know. We've got the event coming up, 2018, TLDC18.com. You can get more information. Get yourself registered. Get a discount by becoming a member at tldc.us/membership. And be sure to join us here tomorrow. Just wanted to say thanks so much for everybody. I think we've got an open forum scheduled for tomorrow. We don't currently have a guest on tap, but if any of you would like to volunteer for that spot, or if you just want to leave it up to the open forum nature of this collaborative conversation, we can do that as well. So let us know, reach out. Hope you guys all have a great day, a great start to your working year for 2018. You guys are fantastic. Thanks for hanging out today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, bye, no, 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 no.